Thank you, Michael. Wonderful to be here again at FYI. This is one of the good things I think I do in my life over the last few years. So first of all, who has heard of microcredentials? Oh my goodness. Who has got them running in the university? A few of you. All right. So, well, let's discuss. Okay, so what are microcredentials? Well, this seems to have started as a government initiative some years ago. And the idea here was that the Department of Education, Skills and Employment started this to provide short courses for upgrading and updating further qualifications. And this was part of what they call the Lifelong Learning Initiative. And there are lots of rules online. There's a whole web page and several web pages, in fact, that deal with the rules and regulations about this and what actually qualifies as a macro-credential. Then following from there, what qualifies for the certification of that and so on. And there's a few websites. I won't go into all of them, but let me just probably find one here. Maybe I won't actually go because I might have difficulty coming back in the forward from this, but the websites are there. Now, in fact, it's just more than the idea, because there's, as the last one says, there's funding available here. The what of what these are and the how is that it must be online. They must be assessed, otherwise there's no certification and no credit for that. And it was meant to be an industry-driven one. So the industry decides what it needs, and then the universities or other TAFE outlets provide this, and from there they take on with a partnership. And they're modularized so that you could pick up individual or pairs or a whole course, if you like, and bits and pieces. Some of them are just one little unit somewhere, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever else. Otherwise, some of them are several of these things. And there's quite a bit of money available for this kind of initiative, $250,000 a year for designing and developing and delivering this aligned to the specific industry needs and the skills gaps that were perceived. So universities, how do they get into this? Well, universities seem to have adopted this approach over here. And so the Central Queensland University has one on screen production skills for Far North Queensland as part of arts and entertainment. There's a full list of universities who have received funding for this particular initiative from the government. And there's quite a bit of money, as I said, involved in this. Examples in maths are not so many that I could find online, but maybe I'll have some education here from you, the group over here. There's some non-maths kind of programs. So the Australian Catholic University has what's called a maths iSTEM, and it's aimed at providing a pathway for a graduate certificate in education, a Master of Education students, and there's 12 months online for a fee of $1,000. This is a full, essentially, year course. The Southern Cross University has a postgrad certification in teaching maths for out-of-field teachers. So provide some work there. There's 12 weeks, and that's actually quite a bit there, $1,100 or so. And there's 12 weeks only for this field teachers to learn maths for teaching in I presume in lower primary school or primary school. University of Adelaide has what they call their PACE program, and then with the short courses. Short courses. That's part of what they call their Maths Trek X series. And there are 6 modules. They attract a fee of $99 US, which is $150 Australian. They're self-paced, and each module is meant to be completed within 4 weeks, and there's 3 to 6 hours per week of commitment from the student that's required. And there's a website there that has all the details. I won't go into the details for the PACE program as such, but here are the units they cover. There are 6 modules. Each, remember, there are 4 weeks requiring 4 to 6 weeks hours of work per week. So there are polynomial functions, special functions, with expression and log functions, trig functions, differential calculus in one module there, covering everything you require to know there. Integral calculus, another module for the integration things, areas, everything else. There's one on probability, and there's one on statistics. So these 6 modules over here. And for those who are familiar with high school mathematics, this essentially is what they call the methods course in the ATA. Now, so it does cover all the material, at least on the face of it. Macquarie has a math preparation module, which is essentially a bridging microcredential, I call it, and that's 5 days, 4 hours per day. So essentially just a week long, and the fee is $300 there. It's a blended with online and of course on campus, or of course off campus as the students' requirements. And here there's no formal assessment. We have started one, or starting one at the moment. This is how this became familiar with me, and I was interested in this. Now, if you look at those 6 modules there, they look very much like the Adelaide one. Surprise, surprise. Equations, functions, graphs, special functions, which means all the exponential, log, and trig functions, differential calculus, integral calculus, probability, and stats, all in that sense. Now, I'm not sure, well, Adelaide seems to have equal weighting or equal time for each of these. My experience with the method scores in ATA is that the stats probably doesn't require as much time, and the other ones is quite small in fact, in one sense. So I'm not sure whether we've agreed yet if these all will have the same credit or different credits, so different amounts of time required for these. The problem, of course, is if you have lower time or credit for some of those, you can charge only a lesser fee. And money is always quite important here. So this is something will start, it's meant to start in October or so this year. And we have got 6 weeks for each module. Assessments are built into each module. So each module will have something like, I presume, weekly quizzes and so on, and an assessment at the end of that. These will all be online assessments here. And the idea is if you want to credit this as the equivalent to methods for ATA, which then allows you to go into the university and take the next level mathematics, then you must submit to yourself to a final examination that's written and invigilated that covers all the 6 modules. So that exam will then qualify you as having the equivalent of ATA mathematics methods, and you can then go on from there to the next level maths in the university. And that will be required for things like engineering and other degrees. Now, the pros of this are probably not very difficult to work out. Certainly, one pro is that it allows students to catch up in their maths knowledge outside semester. They can do this anytime the modules are, well, they're available essentially online all the time. They can be completed before you start your degree, so it doesn't add to the degree. We saw all this definitions earlier about enabling and so on. So this is in effect in one sense enabling. So you can start this and do this before you start the degree and come into the degree with all the knowledge you require for mathematics. It sells space, so there's less stress. It's modularized, so you can pick up modules, some or all as you require. Some students might think, or some degrees might think they require just the calculus or just the trigonometry and so on. They might pick up just those little bits and pieces. And some might just pick up the probability and stats, and that's all they need. The cons. First one, it is as its catch-up outside semester. But we well know how students work, so I will be interested to see whether students start this and actually are motivated enough to do this. So a student who comes in, say, for example, from year 12 and hasn't got the maths background and wants to do some of these units in the vacation, I'm not sure how many actually will do that. It's self-paced, but that's a problem as well because there's no pushing, and students we well know, even in face-to-face classes, tend to fall behind and then not catch up. So I was surprised again if all the students who enroll finish this. Interestingly, though, I think in some of the models for Adelaide University, they had something like 7,000 students enrolled, which is huge. And that can bring lots of money, of course. The problem with the students selecting modules is they might not have all the knowledge that they think they might have. So they might think they can do without the functions and go to calculus and suddenly realize I don't know the functions at all. And the personal attention that students might require if they have difficulties, I think, is very much more difficult online. And then, of course, if you provide that support, it also has resource implications as to who does that. And there are some other issues that I think are important. There's pedagogical issues here. The time to complete each model is 6 weeks by 6 hours, 36 hours. Now that looks actually okay for a face-to-face session. It's certainly better than the one semester bridging units we have at the moment, which run over 12 weeks, maybe 4 or 5 hours a week. That's only 60 hours, but this is 36 hours per module. So 6 modules is quite a bit more than that. The other thing is that the modules actually are discrete. Now, we well know that we don't treat calculus as all of the differential calculus in one and then the integral calculus in the other. We tend to go back and forth a little bit. We might just treat functions and then the differentiation of simple polynomial functions, and go to the integration of those functions, go back to the log exponential functions, and back and forth a little bit. So I think put them in discrete categories of discrete models like this may be a problem. The exam at the end covering all the modules is a problem, because if you do this over 6 weeks, by the time we have to the last module, it's more than 6 months past. And if you remember all those things, I think the problem, do you have those previous modules accessible to you for revision? How do you organize all that online? Maybe it can be done. And again, the support for students who will take their final exam may be a problem as well. How do you provide support for them? So those are kind of the issues I think that, at least in my experience in my university, has not been well thought through. Now, the rationale seems to be that this is targeting those bridging units, essentially. So this is the first one we put it together is the methods micro-credential. I presume when this goes well, we can then go to the specialist micro-credential as well, allowing students to take both of these outside semester. But of course, that'll take quite a bit of a while, might take a full year for students. And as I said earlier, for credit, assessments are required. Now, it is also available to students who might be out of the high school regime for a little while, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years down the track, who might want a little bit of revision of mathematics before they come to university again. And so for those students, it might be a good idea for them to do this. Even if they aren't assessed, they might have done the ATM mathematics 3 years ago and forgotten a lot of it, and this will be a revision for them. But the danger is, in my opinion, once this is in place, and I've already had some notice by some departments, how will the university use it? Because once it's there, it's available for the university-wide to use as they wish. And my feeling is some department will say, well, I want my students to know trigonometry. That's all they do. Don't care with assessments. Just do that and come into the university. And on their face, they might complete it and maybe do all right as well. But how much they understand is another problem. And I have had some noises from the engineers, in fact, they don't care about assessments. Well, the point is they will have to, at least for the maths part, because they can't do the high-level maths that follows from this unless they have done the assessments and the exam as well. So these are some of the concerns I have about how this whole thing is going to work in future. As I said, we'll start this year. If somebody hears from Adelaide online, then maybe they can tell us how it's working there, and maybe you can learn something as well from there. And that's all I have. Thank you.